supplies and funding lasts. But you could send the Reading Language Arts Extensions package because you want your students to have access to high quality texts. It provides student libraries if students are in need of actual books. And there are some varying options that you can choose. And again, the great thing is that it can be shipped directly to students' homes. You may be thinking that you would like to do both the extension and maybe leverage the Texas Home Learning print and digital options. If you do this, you can have everything shipped directly to homes, working with the various vendors. So we do have a print vendor that send the printed packages, as well as the RLA extensions. Or you could be thinking more about using the digital and print package options for Texas Home Learning, but you want to have it shipped, or you can work with your district to actually print and distribute yourselves. And then last, you may be thinking about you want to use some components of Texas Home Learning, but want to make some changes that best meet the needs of your community and your school. And we'll talk through some of those options a little bit later. Before we jump into the content deep dive, we want to spend just a few minutes reflecting on some questions for you to ask yourself as we go through it. So as we go through the different content and better understand the products and what's provided, it's important to think about what's the vision for summer learning. Is your vision for summer learning an intention of keeping students connected, and therefore we want to provide opportunities? Is it more that we want to target specific grade levels or content and have students engage either in reading or in math activities? Or we want to be able to diagnose early where students are, for example, in math, so we can prepare for the new school year. So thinking about those considerations will be important as we go through the content. And then the next thing to consider is the role of the teacher and the family in supporting summer learning. All materials on the Texas Home Learning site are intended to be family facing, and teachers can support in various levels that we'll talk about a little bit more on the webinar, but they are intended to go directly to homes and have students and families work directly with the materials, either digital or with the printed package. And then last, the next consideration is really what next steps are needed for students to access the content. And here we're talking about, would it be beneficial to set up a district rostering system for some of the programs? That way you can do some progress monitoring, and we'll talk about which products best are used with that. Will you need to send some information home about how to access materials in the Texas Home Learning website? What next steps will need to be taken as far as accessing the printed packages or printing them directly at your schools? So as we go through the content, please refer back to thinking about these guiding questions. Before we jump into the content, I do want to mention that we have the Q&A feature as well as the chat. Please submit any questions there. We'll be monitoring throughout the webinar, and then we will reserve some time at the end to answer some questions. We're going to ask that you limit any chat questions or Q&A directly about this webinar. We will provide the email address if you have additional questions. Thank you in advance for your cooperation, and let's dive into some content.
For pre-kindergarten, we have options that include our Texas Home Learning print and digital options, as well as some publisher-created options with the RLA extension. So starting with our Texas Home Learning option that you might be considering for pre-kindergarten, this is daily lessons on weekly themes, such as ocean animals. There's a full day of activities that are easy to follow for family members and use materials commonly found at home. The digital version of Texas Home Learning Prekindergarten links out to read aloud books on digital libraries and other sites, whereas the print version includes some printed books that align to the weekly themes. If leveraging the Texas Home Learning Prekindergarten option, families also have the option to make an account on the Children's Learning Institute's Circle Activity Collection, which includes videos of parents doing some of the learning activities with their children. Many of these activities are featured in the Texas Home Learning plans. You could also choose to purchase the RLA extension options for pre-kindergarten. We are offering 2 TEA secured prices with Teaching Strategies and Frog Street. The Teaching Strategies Summer SOAR option is a toolkit that includes summer learning packets, nonfiction books, conversation cards, and a family guide. The cost is $40, and TEA will pay for up to 50 sets for districts who meet the requirements for the RLA extension. You can find out more information about the requirements for the RLA extension and ordering on the RLA extension page of Texas Home Learning, which we will visit on this webinar in a moment. We are also offering the Frog Street Family Learning Fund at a cost of $50. This option is not currently subsidized by TEA, but again, you can find out more information on the website about how to order from this publisher. And we can go on to RLA for kindergarten through 2nd grade. So for kindergarten through 2nd grade, we also have options that include our Texas Home Learning and RLA extensions. If leveraging Texas Home Learning for kindergarten through 2nd grade, we've included both phonics and reading. The digital version of Texas Home Learning features Lalalo Phonics, which is a digital adaptive phonics program with free access. Students take a placement test before beginning in order to start them on lessons that are just right for them in their phonics learning. We also are featuring in both the print and digital version of Texas Home Learning some Amplify M-Class activities for phonics and phonological awareness. These activities are quick, family-led, and available in both English and Spanish. Using these activities will keep foundational reading skills activated in students over the summer and help parents understand how they can support in continuing to develop these important skills. We also have digital and printed books included in Texas Home Learning, and as I mentioned, materials available in both English and Spanish. Melissa, if you could go ahead and click on the RLA extension link, we can see more about the RLA extension options for reading language arts. We've secured TEA pricing and some TEA support for several options for RLA extensions. You can find more information about this on the Reading Language Arts extension page. Any of the highlighted products, which include the pre-K teaching strategies, K1 learning dynamics, and K5 HMH text set options, are eligible for coverage of up to 50 sets per grade level for districts that meet the requirement, which is 50% of students classified as economically disadvantaged. I want to speak about the learning dynamics and HMH products really quickly. The learning dynamics product is a phonics product that is built to be used by families. So it's a very family-friendly program. We have also the HMH text set option, which is 6 books that are a mixture of fiction and nonfiction. And again, these options are supported partially by TEA. If you could scroll back up, Melissa, you can see the additional options that we have. We've got options from Scholastic, grab and go take-home book packs, 3 packs or 5 packs. We've also got Savas trade books and digital study guides. Any of these options are available to you at this price. And again, The highlighted options are the ones that are currently eligible for our TEA subsidy for districts that qualify and while supplies last. Melissa is going to go and talk about the reading language arts options for 3rd through 12th grade.
Thanks, Dana. For reading language arts 3rd through 12th, we have access to various online digital libraries. One example would be Mayan, where we have open access through, if you go onto our site and look at the RLA extensions, we do have online access to text. Also within our digital learning plans, there are also links out to PDFs of Newsela and various texts that help to support students in reading. I'm going to just briefly show you where all our digital plans are now located. On the website, when you go on to I'm a parent or student on online materials, we now have all of our materials, digital plans linked here according to content area. This is part of our restructuring to make scheduling a little bit more easier for districts to work through. But you can see that there are links to various books that students can access. We have English and Spanish options. In addition to that, there is our Newsela Texas Home Learning site, in which if you follow the instructions on Texas Home Learning to access Newsela, you can go ahead and set up so that you are able to see these Texas Home Learning connections and their collections. And so if I go to Texas Home Learning ELAR, these sets are established so that it is simpler for students to go in and use all of the texts that align to what is in the guidance for Texas Home Learning on the digital site. For the print option, for the printed packages, they include prints of all of the reading materials that are included in the lesson plans on Texas Home Learning.
Now on to math for kindergarten through 5th grade. For our digital Texas Home Learning, we're featuring Zern Math, which is an adaptive math program with online digital lessons. Zern is not meant for just practice problems. Students can actually learn new content through videos and interactive activities. Our summer plans with Texas Home Learning guide parents or teachers on where to start students in the sequence of learning with Zern. Zern also features extensive implementation supports for students, families, and teachers. Individual parents or students can make a free account. Zern is always free for individual accounts. Access to more extensive monitoring. For print materials, we're leveraging Zern and Eureka Math materials. These resources are aligned to the same way that the math is taught in the digital product. And districts can request answer keys for the print materials by emailing Texas Home Learning at tea.texas.gov.
For mathematics 612, the lessons on Texas Home Learning leverage several different products. So they're using Carnegie math lessons combined with the adaptive math program, Mathia. The plans for math focus on specific content and skills that are critical learnings for the grade level or course to prepare for the next year. Districts that register with Carnegie Learning will receive free student accounts for the summer, allowing for progress monitoring and additional support. Teachers can register with Carnegie Learning to receive access to teacher materials, including answer keys and lesson supports. These are for the Carnegie lessons. Within the digital math plans on the site, you'll see that there is a combination of access to all of the lesson materials. These lesson materials will be PDFs that students could download and print or use a separate piece of paper to work through. In addition to that, there are instructional videos for many of the lessons. These are short Vimeo videos that help to support critical pieces going along with the lesson materials. In addition, we've sequenced out the Mathia to include appropriate amounts of time for students to work on differentiated skill development that coincides with the lesson materials, and so it is in sequence. If students log into Mathia, they actually are able to go through the lessons within the Mathia program. And all of their progress monitoring, if districts set up an account, are able to do that and check where students are with their skill development as well as completion of assignments. However, parents can also simply log in to have free access to Mathia with their students. In some of the lessons, there are additional live hints that help to support through a use of an Autobot, where students are getting additional support with practice problems. For the print materials, they leverage all of the same Carnegie lessons, and so the digital and print are aligned together so that if students are, if your school is leveraging this, then students will go through both the same focused content and specific skills, whether they have the print or digital options. For science and social studies, we know that some districts are wanting to give the comprehensive core subject areas. So looking at this page, we wanted to share what was available by grade band. In science and social studies for K through 8, we have done grade banded content. And so these are K2, they will have all the same lessons where we're leveraging Brain Pop Junior, and then we also have Spanish version of materials for K2 and 3-5. 3-5 will be a grade banded, so all of the science materials and social studies will be similar within that grade band, or the same within the grade band. The digital and print options match, and so where there are videos in the digital option of Brain Pop, there are printed content information to support students through associated activities. In grades 6 through 8, the science and social studies are grade banded materials, and we are leveraging the new Zella, and that has both the digital access with the collection I showed previously, as well as the print option having all of the reading material included with directions on supporting activities. In science, the 6 through 8 is a comprehensive focus looking at the TEKS that support with 8th grade. And so you would see a mixture of all of middle school science within there. And for social studies, there's a focus on key social studies components in middle school. In grades 9 through 12, science and social studies is unique to each specific course. In the print materials, we are using Newsela readings along with associated activities and writing. In the 9 through 12 science, there are also some additional investigations that students could do at home with common materials. And then in 9 through 12 on the digital component, we're leveraging Khan Academy. This is a great option for high school students to be able to access their specific science or social studies course and would be able to progress and do some checks. In the Khan Academy, there is the option of having a specific account. A parent can set this up, a teacher or a district, and you can monitor progress for students. One other component I wanted to point out is the digital option of Newsela allows for students to be able to go on and you can adjust Lexile levels. And so you can see here on the screen that we have Lexile levels for adjustment for teachers or students to do. And then they also have a Spanish version of many of the articles in the upper grade levels as well. We're going to jump in now and talk about some of the summer learning options and considerations with use of the products, as well as the Texas Home Learning Plans. So first thing to consider is customization of the Texas Home Learning Plan. And so we provided this continuum to show you what are some different options. Again, these are just examples. You can leverage the Texas Home Learning Plans, both digital and print, any way you choose. They are available for you to access and make adjustments. You can use the packets as is, download, work with our print and shipping option, use of the digital, and there is information for each digital product on how to set up accounts. You could select just specific grade levels or subject areas and direct your students to the Texas Home Learning site, and they now have the option to just go into a specific content and not a set schedule of all content for the day. You can also go through and edit the packets directly. This is the content, the length, the presentation, and we have provided some information on the Texas Home Learning site. Under the district navigation component, you can see customized PDF packets. On this page, there's information provided on how to go through and make edits to the printable packets to be able to adjust for the needs of your district or school. And then last thing, which would require a little bit more work, but you can go through and replace content-specific programs or materials. So for example, you may have already sent books home with students, and instead of using the reading component of Texas Home Learning, you're going to replace what's on the packets with specific information for reading language arts, but you want to use the other materials. And so you can go through and make those adjustments. The same with the math. You could use tools and resources that you already have at your schools and part of your summer learning plan, and take the packets and adjust them accordingly to match your needs. Another way that you can consider modifying Texas Home Learning Plans is about the level of teacher involvement. And so all the plans on the site are intended to be sent and used as is with families. But you can make some decisions as teachers and leaders of how you're going to work and use those lessons? Will you be delivering the plans, working with virtual classrooms? Will you be using some of them in the actual school with limited numbers of students? You could be modifying plans to meet individual needs. There's also the opportunity to use platforms you already have established, your Google Classroom or use of Zoom or various products to be able to deliver instruction alongside with the materials. And then there is the option to do some progress monitoring, especially in math, with some of the options that are made available. But this is another consideration in how to modify the Texas Home Learning Plan to meet the needs and your vision for summer learning within your district. We have also put together some information to support training considerations and what's available from vendors. Some guiding questions to consider as we go through the page on the Texas Home Learning site is, what are the vision, priorities, and roles for your summer learning, and how does training play into this? What next steps do you need for student access? And then really we're going to jump into the training needs of teachers to be able to execute the summer learning plan. I'm going to jump onto the site. If you go to our homepage, again, I want to just remind you that to get into any of the digital materials or print, you go into I'm a parent or a student and begin looking at the materials there. For teachers, you can go to the I'm a teacher page, which really helps to identify some steps, recommended steps for using the materials. This is a great page to help guide you through thinking potentially on how you're going to use the Texas Home Learning. But in addition to that, we've provided a couple other resources under the teacher navigation bar. The professional learning page helps to support with particular grade levels and materials. And so, for example, if I'm going to use the math products on Texas Home Learning, if I go to math, it directly tells me about how to access support and what supports are available from each of the vendors. The vendors we are working with are providing additional supports, webinars. Some are doing online coaching or on-call coaching. And so there are various options to help teachers and leaders access the materials needed to prepare for using the Texas Home Learning with their students. So if you go to this page under the teacher navigation bar, professional learning, you'll see that there, for all the products and content, there's a summary of the types of professional learning available from the vendor and direct links to support with easy access. Another feature that I wanted to share with teachers is that underneath the navigation bar, if you're considering needs of special education students, we've provided some additional information regarding what products have certain features to support students, in addition to some other products and offerings that help with reading supports as well. I'm going to pass it back over to Dana.
I'm just checking at some questions to make sure we answer all the questions. We're getting a lot of questions about SPED support. So thank you, Melissa, for sharing our new SPED supports for THL page. Please send any more questions if they're not answered by that page. We also want to ask you for your input and your resources. we have a new page about sharing Texas Home Learning resources. If you are using Texas Home Learning as is, if you are modifying it in any way for your local context, we would love to hear from you and see some of the resources that you're putting together and hopefully share those widely for others to benefit from. So please email us at texashomeLearning@tea.texas.gov and show us the great things that you are doing for Texas students so that we can share those more widely as well.
Thank you, Dana. We're going to go ahead and open up to answering some of the questions in the chat and the Q&A. So if you'll keep those coming, we're going to try to answer as many live. If we aren't able to answer a question live, then we will work to get those answers to you quickly. Before I jump into that, I do want to share that later today we will post both the recording of the webinar as well as the slides so that you have easy access to the links within the PowerPoint that we showed earlier today. So some questions that have come up. Will Zern be available to access in July? Yes. Products, all the products will be through the end of July. Some of them go a little bit further than July. For example, Carnegie will go till Labor Day. Will the videos captioned? I think the question here, videos for the products on the website, our video will be captioned and will be recorded, placed on the TEA or Texas Home Learning website later today. Within the teacher, the SPED supports, it will outline some of the components about video lessons. And then many of the products also do have captioning associated with it, but it does depend on the product. The day-to-day documents, on how to access those again, on the Texas Home Learning homepage, if you go to I'm a parent or student, going to the online materials, you now can go to all of the grade levels, click on any grade level, and it will have the digital component. I do want to mention that if you're leveraging the packets or the digital components from the first phase, you still have access to those. What we've made for adjustments is made a quicker glance with a focus specifically on each content. So you can just go to math if I want to and see all of the math week by week. We've set it up on a daily schedule, but families and teachers can make the adjustments as they need to fit the plans that they have. The question about the day-by-day plans, how long will they be available? We will keep these up throughout the summer. And just to note, many of the products, the access to them ends at the end of July. And so we'll put some updates on when the website will be coming down, but it will go at least through July and maybe into August for some products. There is a question about the list of TEKs covered by each lesson. If you are going, we have not put a TEKS correlation on there, but all of the materials, especially, well, all of the products and content were focused on what were critical focus areas for that grade level or content, but we do not have an association with each TEK. I'm happy to work with that individual if you want to email me directly at texashomeLearning@tea.texas.gov. Would the content be enough for students at home and students at school? Yes, they're intended to be short bursts of lessons, but they would have all the materials, and they would have, for example, all of the reading materials would be available. Students could use at home or at school. And again, they're meant to coincide with each other for the continuity piece. There is a question about, will parents be able to check work if they have a paper packet for subjects? We can work with you to help set up, answer keys are being provided for math, and we can work with you on how best to how to access those answer keys for K through 5. You can email us, and for Carnegie, for 6 through 12 math, they would have to register. They could check them if they have the answer keys. You can get both. There is a question about the phase 1, like our THL, phase 1 and phase 2. So again, if you go either to the online materials or the printed materials, you can see that there's our phase 1, our 1.0, and then we have our new content-specific schedules for each grade level printed packets here to be able to download and print. There's a question about, will students have to access Newsela website? Would it be feasible for them to assign articles in Google Classroom? I think you can work with whatever works best for your plan. You have access to the articles, and we have the ability to print them, so you can use those and link them in your site. Dana, I'm catching questions, and I think Andrew might be on here too, but if there's anything you see, please let me know.
We got a question about lessons in Spanish, stories, etc. So for pre-kindergarten through 5th grade, everything is available in English and Spanish. Most of them are from the same resource. Some of them are from a slightly different version of the resource, so that they're both high quality in the English and the Spanish. And then in 6th through 12th grade, several of the texts for reading language arts are available in Spanish.
And we do have a section of our website that is Spanish facing. I do have a question about high school math, covered till Algebra 2. We actually have Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Cal. If you go down to the bottom of the site, it will tell you where these live. So if you look at high school, we did set the packets up to follow this flow, where within the 9th grade packet, there's both Algebra 1 and Geometry, Biology, and World Geography. But you can go directly to whatever math, English, history, or science within the digital. But we do have through pre-calculus. And for science, we have biology, chemistry, and physics, social studies. There is a combination for some economics and government, US history, world history, and world geography.
Melissa, we're getting a couple more questions about the RLA extensions. Could you visit that page again and we can go over that option?
Again, if you go up to the district navigation, you'll see RLA extension materials.
So for the RLA extension packages, question we're getting is about the highlighted ones. So the 3 highlighted ones are currently available for a TEA subsidy, which is 50 sets per grade level in pre-kindergarten through 5th grade for school districts and charter schools with over 50% of students classified as economically disadvantaged. So as you can see on the screen right now, there are steps to order to be able to receive those 50 sets per grade level. And then you are welcome to order beyond the 50 sets. If you order from these 3 publishers beyond 50 sets, they will invoice you for any sets above 50. And then, Melissa, if you scroll back up, we also have offered additional options which are not covered by the TEA subsidy, but for which these publishers have guaranteed these prices and also guaranteed shipping directly to homes. So we wanted to provide multiple options for you. We had a question about if you submit an order, when would you know if you got the free ones after submitting the order? And the answer I've got for that is they'll send it to the publisher, and TEA will approve it as soon as the publisher lets us know that the publisher received the order. And so we'll do that as fast as we can. But if you have any specific questions about a specific order, you can also email us at Texas Home Learning.
Have a question about high school math courses. Yes, the high school math courses also use Carnegie lessons in combination with Mathia. And Carnegie is providing a lot of additional supports. If teachers register for the answer keys, they also have access to additional videos, teacher materials, and supports with delivery of lessons. One other thing I want to highlight is if you go to the district guidance page, on the bottom of the page, we do have this spreadsheet that outlines which products or resources are used, some highlights. And if you click on this link, it will bring up a spreadsheet that has some additional links for you and information about how to access answer keys for the math, how to, sorry, I'm zooming in, account information. And so that's another place where you can find some additional pieces. All of these live links for the resources help you to better understand the product and making your decisions.
We've got another question about, or a couple questions about how long the products are available. And so we did say through July, and that's due to publisher permissions. And we have some questions. If we start using these products, will we still have access in the fall? So that will depend on each product. As we said, some products are always available for free. So for example, Zern is always free for an individual account and paid for a district account. So in terms of continuing to access in the fall, that would be on a product by product basis that you as a district would have to think about with each individual publisher, considering your approach for the fall.
There's a question about distribution of book sets. The pricing negotiated and the work we've done with the publishers is to ship books directly to homes. You may contact the publishers and work with them directly about their ability to send to the district. And that contact information is all available on the RLA extension page. We've provided all contact information to reach out to publishers to ship to your schools and work with them directly. Question about, do you need to create an account in order to use the materials? The materials on this website are freely accessible. You do not need an account. If you are leveraging some of the digital products, there is information for setting up various accounts. And so if I go to online materials and I'm looking for first grade, there is this first time visitors. And if you click on this, this will help you to set up different accounts. There are some products where setting up a district account might be preferable. For example, if you are going to use Carnegie Learning and Math for grades 6 through 12, you setting up a district account will ensure that you can have progress monitoring, but it is not required. You can set up individual accounts as well. I'm going to look through a few more questions.
We got a question about the turnaround time when placing an order for materials. If you are ordering Texas Home Learning packets, the turnaround time is about 7 to 10 days from order to arrival at students' homes.
We do continue to take some of your suggestions and comments to upgrade the site. I see some suggestions on additional information that might be helpful under the SPED supports. And so please check back. We continue to make adjustments to improve what information is available to support schools and districts.
And another follow-up on the book set sent directly to students or coming to the district for distribution. We have set up our system so that books can be sent directly to students at their homes, but you should email us directly if in your local context there's a reason that you would need to have them shipped to your district and distributed locally. You can go ahead and email us at texashomelearning@tea.texas.gov.
There is a question about doesn't follow the TEKS resource system. We did not follow a particular scope and sequence such as the TEKS that available through the TEKS resource system. What I believe you're referring to is what content is specifically addressed. There is if you go to the different materials, you can see some additional information. So for example, on 6th grade, if I go to take a look at math, I can say the schedule for hourly format, if you want, tells you some additional information for first-time visitors. For example, how to set it up. It also provides an overview of the learning. So for example, this is, I'm looking at 6th grade math, and I can see the focus area for 6th grade math is positive rational numbers, ratios, percent fraction, and decimal equivalents. It is not all of the readiness standards, but they are critical content and skills for the next grade level and could be accomplished during this summertime. There are some questions about free access to Amplify. We definitely will do another check on that. That is for sure until July. Dana and I will do a follow-up on and add that to the site as far as Amplify being available through July. We'll work with the company. There is a question, excuse me, about students that have significant learning disabilities. I would also refer, this site may not provide that assistance, but I also would refer you to, if you give me just a second, if you go to our TEA website that's specific for COVID support and guidance, we do have a lot of additional information to help support planning. And we have a special education site that is set up that includes many different instructional supports and guidance. And although we may not have it on our Texas Home Learning site, this is an additional resource that can help support.
We have a question about a checklist for parents who are using the online system to know what accounts they're supposed to create. So Melissa, if you could click on the parents/students page, select grade for online. For students who are using Texas Home Learning Digital, if you click on a grade level, we do have a first-time visitors button. This is not a checklist, so definitely appreciate that feedback, and we can think about some more resources that would help. But we do have step-by-step instructions for setting up each product, and then an overview of information that students will learn if they leverage all of Texas Home Learning, and this is specific to each grade level. So hopefully this will be helpful for parents trying to navigate using Texas Home Learning for the first time. But again, please send additional feedback if you have feedback coming from your district and from your teachers and students and families.
Also, Dana, when I go to begin one-time account setup on this page, it actually lists the different products and what grade levels they are for. We have this to help to support. And if you go to the district guidance page, you can also see the resources and what grade level and content that can help for providing that information to parents. Oh yeah, the list of online products. This is on the district. If I go under district guidance on this page, on the bottom, you can click directly on this image and that'll bring you to the spreadsheet with all of the programs.
And while you're on that page, Melissa, we got a question specific to social studies and getting products and the process started for social studies. So I think that this page would be a good place to start. You can see the products that are leveraged for social studies and program highlights and supports and account options. So login information for leveraging those products for social studies.
For Spanish, if you go to Texas Home Learning, we have a page that is in Spanish and all of the information is provided in Spanish as well. The pages are in Spanish and it will help walk through the process for parents and families. Okay, one more plug before we go. Please share with us your Texas Home Learning resources that you create, and you can email us directly to share those resources. We really would like to be able to share with other individuals using the materials and hear how you're making adjustments or using as is. Please continue to contact us. with questions or additional supports, we encourage you to visit the webpage, and we will be posting the recorded webinar and slides later today. Appreciate your time, and thank you very much for joining us. Have a good day.